sticking with us here on ARC Rochester at 8:35. We want to talk about finances because it's time for this month's Wealth Wednesday.
Yeah, we're going to discuss financial advisors and how to find one that's a good fit for you. For more, we're joined now by wealth advisor Jarrett Felton. Jarrett, I'm sure a lot of people are sitting at home thinking, do I really need a financial advisor?
Sure.
Tell us about the benefits.
Sure. So I think let's start with some statistics. About a third of Americans actually use a financial advisor. There are about approximately 300,000 financial advisors in the United States. So let's just start with that, right? Those at banks, those on the independent side, the insurance channel, about 300,000 altogether. I think what a good financial advisor would be able to do is to help remove some of the panic, the reactions that people would have, and the emotional responses to what's going on in our economy, in our stock market, and sometimes in their spending, if they do that. Right.
Okay, so if I'm sitting there saying, okay, I mean, I feel like it might be something I need, how do you shop for one?
Shop? What do you just add to cart?
Yeah, I don't know. Do you?
Right, check out. I think...
And you go with the first one you meet.
Fair enough. So first, we need to understand that trustworthiness is how people usually make the decision to work with a financial advisor, just like any sort of service that you would want to be provided for yourself or for your household. But there's 4 things that I like to advise people to look for. Number 1, we want to see, first and foremost, are they a fiduciary? So in our world, a fiduciary is an advisor that is held ethically and legally bound to act in the client's best interest and to put their needs above and beyond their own. Right? So of the 300,000 advisors, those statistics I gave earlier, 300,000 of them, only about 11 to 12% are fiduciaries in the United States. So the minority of them are fiduciaries. So what does that look like or feel like, or compared to what? So the other side of the house, or the majority, act on what's called suitability standards. So they may recommend products or ideas or suggestions to clients that may be appropriate for where they are in their life, but it may not always be in their best interest. So the other side of the fiduciary piece is putting the client's needs and best interest above your own, but that also means even in the event that you make less as an advisor.
So they're not making moves on your behalf so that they can make a quick buck. They're making moves on your behalf with long-term goals in mind.
Long-term goals, maintain the relationship, always keeping your best interest in mind, being legally and ethically bound. That is the key. So out of 300,000 advisors out there, only 11 to 12% that are true fiduciaries in that space. So that would be probably one of the first questions that you would want to know, Google, become familiar with if you're looking to bring a financial advisor to the house to help you navigate the perils of life. The other thing that I would say is you may want to ask how they get paid. Right? That's probably something that people think about consciously or subconsciously, but maybe don't ask. Are they commissioned? If they're commissioned, they're probably not a fiduciary. Usually not.
Okay.
Right? So a fiduciary would usually have some sort of flat fee that they would charge. Or they would maybe charge a percentage around an account for the assets that they do manage. And they earn that out as the relationship evolves or matures. Right? The next thing, credentials. Let's talk about, do you have the right credentials to do so? What licenses do you carry? What designations do you carry? Do you have any specialties? There's different types of specialties, whether it's certified financial planning, CFA, if there's maybe divorce specialist. There's a lot of different types of certification. So depending on where you are in your journey in life, you may want to find someone that's in that space that could help meet you where you're at and get you to where you want to go.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Going back to the payment process, for
the cost?
The cost.
Okay.
Yes.
For the advisor.
My payment process to you, my financial advisor. Do I want to be looking for flat fee, or do I want to be doing a percentage? Because the thing for percentage that would stand out to me is that's going to compound over a number of years, and then you're making out, far better off when I could have kept that 2%.
So I think we should probably look at it in 2 different silos. So if we're in the realm of the fiduciary space, you're working with that type of advisor, it's really going to be up to you all to figure out what it is that you actually need. Some people just want pure advice and guidance, and they want to manage their own money.
Okay, okay.
So then maybe a flat fee would be charged because you're only here for advice and guidance, so why should I try and give you something or sell you something you don't need?
Sure.
Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah.
And I would be paid, or fiduciaries would be paid for their time.
Ah,
Right?
okay.
If it's the managing of assets, right? So it's a portfolio, an inheritance, you won the lottery, just kidding, don't play. Well, don't be mad at me, New York State. Or it's an old 401k or a rollover or something like that, and those are the assets that are managed, that would maybe be a percentage of the account. So maybe the average fee, if you just Google it, it probably says somewhere around 1%. Some people are on the higher end of that, maybe 1 to 1.5. Some places are much higher than that, so be careful. That's why you want to ask these questions. And some are less than the 1%. Usually it's based on the amount of the assets that the advisor is managing.
Got it. Okay.
So it's on a scale, right? It's like
Fair
you go to the
enough.
Costco, Walmart, you buy in bulk, you get cheaper. The bigger the account size, usually the lower the fee.
If somebody wants to reach out to you and say, Jared, are you the financial advisor and fiduciary for me?
Sure.
How do they do that?
Sure. They would find us at our website, investent.com, invessent.com, or give us a call, 585-510-7060.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Sure.